Big Boy Brakes.
All right, guys, so this is gonna be our big boy brake episode. I've bought big brakes before, but I've never had a finished project with big boy brakes on it. So I'm super excited. And our special guest today is Jesse Vaughn. He came in, it just worked out. He was in the area and he came in and he's gonna help us install our complete brake package. So like I've said before, we're gonna be doing manual brakes, we're gonna be doing Willwoods front and rear, we're gonna be using a lot of products from Level 7 Motorsports. And Jesse has helped us pick out and spec all the parts we're gonna be installing today. He can also do that for you guys. So hit up level7motorsports.com, check out their website. We got a ton of parts for C10s and they're a very, very helpful company. So let's get started. What we have up here is just kind of all of our brake stuff. Well, not all of it obviously, but the majority of what we're gonna be working with here. And then we just wanna kind of go over what we've got, why you may want one over the other, and just different options. So I think we'll just start at the beginning of the brake system, which would be a master cylinder. From my understanding, there are different bore sizes, right?
Yeah.
So why would we pick one bore size over the other, right? So there's gonna be a smaller and a bigger, probably several different sizes in between.
Yep.
Why are we going to do one over the other?
Ultimately, we're trying to hit a target pressure in the system, and volume, it's gonna take a certain amount of volume to get that pressure. So imagine if you had one little bitty caliper in the back, it's only gonna take a certain amount of volume to like move that up against the rotor and then pressurize the system. Well, imagine if you had like a 5-gallon bucket worth of piston, you know, it's gonna take a whole lot more fluid to move that bucket and then pressurize the system. The pressure is what actually gives you that pedal feel and lets you modulate how much the piston moves in or out. So really, we wanna start with like the theory of the brake system and then decide how we wanna activate the brake system. So a lot of people do it the other way around. They've bought all their brake packages and then lastly, they end up at trying to pick the master cylinder. And so even a lot of people don't even know that there are a lot of bore size differences. You know, a lot of people just think that, you know, you buy like a master cylinder from the store and you put it on, and that's really not the case. You know, you need to do a lot of math to determine what bore size to use. And so what we need to know to get this is the piston surface area, like total piston surface area of one side of a caliper. So in your case, like your front has like a 4.98, and then the rear has, I think what we picked was a 1.98. It's a little under 2 inch. So that's a good amount of piston surface area for manual brakes. When you get into too much piston surface area, you need a bigger bore master cylinder. And then with what pedal ratio we have available in these trucks, it gets to a point where it would be really hard to push the pedal. Like, yes, the math says that that'll work, but the amount of foot pressure you can apply on that length of lever, it would be really hard to physically do it. So we know that the pedal ratio in these trucks is 6.3 to 1. And we know that a 15/16 inch bore, that's like a great pedal feel. It's also easy to modulate with your foot, like you can stand on it harder and feel the pressure, and then you can gently like let off and reapply. So it's a good feel. So then we try to buy the calipers that make that work, you know, that the numbers actually match up and we're like, okay, that'll work good. You know, so if we bought this first and then we ended up buying like geometric calipers for like a cheaper disc brake conversion for the back, like that rear piston surface area would be over 6 inches in the back. So then you would be like, you would never reach the pressure. You would never fully activate that caliper with this bore. You would need a bigger bore to activate that caliper.
Like our goal with this truck is to go autocrossing, to do some road racing, kind of get into that area of racing. Why are guys going manual brakes versus having like a vacuum assisted or even like a hydro boost? What is the benefit of manual brakes on a truck that you're going to race?
Yeah, really there's two reasons, consistency and being able to modulate. So with a vacuum system, essentially you could have a different pedal feel. So especially with autocrossing, you know, your braking event is like pretty frequent. You know, you would brake here, brakes on there, brakes on there, brakes on there.
Right.
And sometimes, you know, the engine would never get to a point where it recreated vacuum or re-vacuumed the
Used
assist.
up that vacuum.
Yeah, so you would go from, you know, an easy pedal effort to maybe halfway through your run, a harder pedal effort. So then your brain is literally going to have to be like, okay, oh, what's happening? Okay, you know, I mean,
You're
so it's going to be very
adjusting
distracted.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Yep, and then so there's other options for assist. I mean, you can run a vacuum pump. Those kind of suck. They do fail. But a lot of 3/4 ton trucks did that back in the day. Like a lot of F-Series trucks did that. And then they changed over to Hydro Boost. A lot of trucks were Hydro Boost. But the only reason that I don't like Hydro Boost is because it a lot of times will over assist. I don't know if you've ever driven them, but like you got to run a big bore master cylinder because there's so much assist.
Touchy almost, yeah.
They get a little touchy, so you could get into lockup really easy. And then another thing that I don't like is that you're plumbing an extremely flammable fluid past a header and back.
Gotcha.
You know, so if you did have a line failure, it's gonna go on a header that's red hot.
Okay.
So you could be in a dangerous situation. Whereas manual, like other than like blowing a line or a master cylinder failing, like it's gonna have the same pedal feel every time you hit it. And so that's important. And then being able to, like if you come into a corner very, very fast, like you could give it a lot of effort and you feel that with your leg, and then you could actually like let off and reapply. So if you guys notice people going into like speed boxes where they have to like stop, you can see guys that'll like get it, lock up and let out. Like you can actually modulate some system pressure with your foot. You can feel it.
Okay.
Yeah, those would be the two big main differences.
Yeah, I think when I think about manual brakes, I have like a 35 Chevy that has manual brakes only because there was no room for a boost or anything, right? And I also think about manual brakes as being more race driven or more in the race sector, but you can drive these on the street. Manual brakes on the street, no issues, as long as you do all the calculations.
That's right.
In the beginning and not try to think of it as an afterthought.
Yep.
Right, so I can drive this on the street, no issues, still gonna stop like a normal car.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you have done the research and the calculations to get that bore size right.
Yeah, and I do a lot of technical question answering every single day about manual brake systems. And it's usually as after the fact. You know, we don't get the opportunity to help people system plan in the beginning. So a lot of times it's harder because we're going back and we're saying, okay, I need to find out exactly what caliper you bought.
Yeah.
And then a lot of times we'll say, you know, I bought, you know, CPP's front disc kit. Come to find out that's like an 04 Silverado. You go look that up and you find that it's got like almost a 7-inch piston surface. I mean, that's where we get into like trying to figure out how to make manual brakes work. And a lot of times it's just trying to overcome the fact that they bought too much piston surface area.
And full disclosure, I almost did the exact same thing. I had another brake kit that wasn't Willwood in mind. We were gonna buy it, run it, and I had called Jesse to talk about bore sizes and what master to run because he does sell the firewall plate and everything. And he's like, hold on, take a step back. And luckily I called him when I did before we had a very expensive brake package that wouldn't have worked right.
Yeah.
And
I mean, you could have run power brakes, but that's just not the goal.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. So, and that's kind of a misconception is that the bigger the better, you know, and so that's something that we run into quite a bit. And even, you know, there's companies like Little Shop that sell like really killer, like 16-inch big calipers and stuff. Well, there's a ton of piston surface area. So you just can't do manual brakes with those. It really is like set up for like a big 3/4 ton truck where it had to have hydro boost to be able to pressurize those circuits enough. Yeah.
We did 12.8 in the rear.
Yep.
And what was the front?
14 in the front.
Okay. Can you go too big on a rotor and what would be a con to having too big of a rotor?
Yeah, rotational weight, you know, there's a balance of having too much rotational weight, there's too much mass.
Race truck.
Yeah, so you want to keep mass and rotational weight down. That's why you're buying lightweight wheels, you know, that's why you would want a smaller diameter, but then you also need to balance its thermal capacity. You know, so if you were only autocrossing and only ever seeing 60 miles an hour, like you don't necessarily need a giant rotor because it will have enough leverage to stop the vehicle from that mile an hour and be able to handle that small amount of heat. But it's different if you were at Road America doing 140 miles an hour. You know, then there's more thermal, you know, energy that needs to be dissipated. So that's when you need more rotor.
Would you say you almost want to have the smallest rotor you can.
That's exactly right. You want to have the smallest amount of rotor that you can have.
Gotcha.
And so that changes with every application.
Right.
Yep.
Truck, car, whatever.
Yep. So that's why there's more in the front than there is the back.
Okay.
You know, because there's
heavier
way more brake effort in the front than there is the back. You just don't need that much in the back.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
And there's less mass in the back, so you will actually accelerate better, you know, with less rotor in the back. Yep.
Okay.
And so that's why even a lot of the, you know, guys, we want the aluminum hats too, you know, because there's brake packages that have a solid iron disc, you know, where even the hat, you know, where it goes on the lug is iron too. So even adding the aluminum hat reduces rotational weight too. So that's better braking and better acceleration.
Okay. After our master cylinder, we're gonna have brake lines. So this, like I've said, is the package from Level 7 Motorsports. This is gonna be a complete plumbing kit. Master all the way to the rear end, everything you're gonna need, they're all labeled. So that is nice that they're all labeled. And so you have two options though for the soft lines. Can you explain those to me?
Yeah, we started out with a Pro Series kit, and really we were only going to offer that. And you know, it's kind of always my thing where I always like really kind of overkill. Like every single fitting is like lathed stainless. The stems are stainless.
On the Pro kit.
On the Pro kit.
Okay.
Yep. And then so really the only difference between Pro and Enthusiast is just material.
Okay.
The nuts and the stems are just zinc coated steel.
Gotcha.
So they're going to corrode after some years.
Sure.
Whereas the stainless is going to last forever. But really it's just the material cost and then the lathe time. You know, we put a lot into buying all these little fittings. So by going to zinc coated steel, it dropped the kit price by a lot. It's all still the same PTFE lined stainless hose with silicone on them. It's all the same quality. It's just that it's a zinc coated steel versus a stainless.
Yep. Same hose, different fittings.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And then, you know, we pay to have all these like custom made. So a lot of times in the zinc coated steel, we're buying an off the shelf piece. So there are maybe some adapter differences maybe in the kits, but it all does the same job. Yep.
And I guess I didn't ask or look before, but do you offer these for anything different? Is it just the square bodies right now?
No,
Or
we
you
do
have others?
67 to 72.
Okay.
Yep. And we do the square body trucks right now. We're going to be eventually going into OBS and some other trucks like that. We're going to do NBSs probably pretty quickly. There's even some platforms of trucks that have like rust lines that rust out and fail. So we're going to try to address some of those lines in the little bit newer models of truck. But for now, we're trying to just be really thorough with anything that wasn't quite perfect in these kits. We're expanding to multiple different caliper options in the front. And then even when we started selling this kit, it was just to plumb the frames. And then guys were all asking for the caliper portions as well.
Gotcha.
So now we're actually selling all the chassis plumbing kits for 67 to 72 at least now will have caliper hoses in it, and then an assortment of different fittings no matter what caliper they had up front too.
Okay.
So that's an improvement that's been made like over the year. And then now we're expanding into all the rear ends too. So we do have 10 and 12 bolts sorted out. And then now we're working on the 9-inch too. And the 9-inch one has been the biggest challenge because there's rear offset calipers and front offset calipers, and then all the different inlet fitting sizes. The third members themselves, or not third member, but the housings are different. So there's a lot of variance. We're trying to like dial in a way that we could have one kit that could potentially fit
Many housings.
many housings and
rear
many
ends.
caliper
Okay.
options. Yeah.
And are these all for stock chassis, or are you
Yeah.
getting into any like aftermarket frames?
Well, we do have one for no limit chassis, and that's just because we do them so frequently that it's been easy for us to expand into that. Essentially, they all are going to have the same placement of calipers other than like an IRS chassis. So we do have the no limit one. It's really not on the website, but if you guys want to email us, we can sell you that. But I don't know. I just don't know if we have the time or the manpower to get into all the aftermarket.
There's a lot of different brands of chassis.
Yeah. And I know most manufacturers will sell the chassis for a cost plumbed that's hard to beat too.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so a lot of times they're like, well, heck, for $900, I can get it's already plumbed by the manufacturer.
Gotcha.
So there's a small need in the aftermarket chassis world, I think.
Okay.
It's more the guy with a stock chassis that's at home in his garage.
Right.
Yeah. And so with your truck, this is one part that you needed too, that's specific to your cab. So this is the spacer for the master cylinder.
Yeah.
So since you have the factory reinforcement plate on your firewall, we machine this just to push this out enough to where the factory wheel would proportioning bracket and proportioning valve will clear that reinforcement. So that's really the only need for this.
So it's just a spacer moving it away from the firewall to clear other stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. If you didn't have this and you still had the reinforcement, you could fit this. You just have to cut a chunk out of that. This allows you to just bolt it on.
Gotcha. Do you offer these for anything else, or you just
A lot of different. Yeah, we have a lot of different applications now. So the 67 to 72 one is just a finishing plate. So if you had like a patina truck and you took the booster off, if it's dirty or rusty behind there, it just kind of conceals that. We do the OBS now, which is an adapter. So it was very rare to have a manual brake OBS. We have an adapter plate that goes on the firewall that changes to manual master cylinder. We do F100s because they have a very aggressive firewall reinforcement too. That's like, I don't know, 1.5 inches thick. So we have a pretty thick one for F100s to put this master cylinder on. And then we just did the 60 to 63 trucks, which had the diagonal mount master cylinders, which are really wacky. And I think it was mid-year 64s too that could have had that master cylinder.
Okay.
So it's an adapter plate that will cover up both clutch, because they had a single reservoir dual master cylinder thing. And so you can take that off and put our adapter plate on there and just run the Willwood master cylinder.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're slowly kind of going through all the models of cabs to be able to make manual brakes bolt on.
Now, when somebody orders a brake package from you and you're putting on this firewall plate, what are we doing about the rod? Is the rod changing between years because we're spacing them out?
Yeah. So when you buy the master cylinder from us, we call it the C10 specific package.
Okay.
And this can't be bought from Willwood because we actually changed this push rod. Like if you went and just bought a manual brake master cylinder from Willwood, this push rod is actually longer. So it sounds counterproductive, but allowing this to be shorter lets us put another rod in here and another eyelet on the end of that.
Okay.
So the intermediate rod that we send is about 1 inch long, probably 1.2 inches long for this application. But since there's so many models that we're coming out with, that one push rod can just be trimmed down by the end user for whatever application they had.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep, so we also send Delrin bushing that we've machined. So if you had if you had a power brake, stock brake pedal, and you wanted to go to power or manual brakes, you'd have to re-drill a hole, so actually move the placement up. Well, on all these trucks, they had like that welded stud that was kind of a larger OD. So instead of like cutting that off and trying to reposition a weld, you literally just drill a 3/8 hole, and it'll go in the Willwood eyelet that we send. And then we send you a grade 8 bolt and nylock nut for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So it's literally just drilling a hole in the right spot and just putting the bushing in it.
So if it wasn't in the right spot, what issue would we have?
So your pedal ratio would be off. So you wouldn't be able to get enough leverage to make pressure.
Okay.
Yep.
It may be harder to push the pedal
Yes.
on it. Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You'd be like, oh my God, this is so hard. I can't push it. Well, because the ratio is off.
Okay.
So the other ratio that a square body would have been is a 4.5 to 1.
And that's something I didn't know before talking to you is that depending on what brakes were on the truck is where that hole is on the pedal.
Yeah, they actually changed the pedal.
Yeah. Okay.
Not the hanger, but the actual pedal lever was different. They had a power pedal, and they had not just square body. 67 to 72, they all had the same pedal lever. That's when they changed and added that little linkage on the firewall. That modified the ratio.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they were all a manual pedal, but then they had the power mechanism that changed the ratio. Square bodies actually had 2 different set of brake pedal levers that they'd swap in and out. And even the little tab that goes on the side of the pedal to activate the brake switch, there was a manual brake and a power brake little tab too.
So make sure you have the right ones.
That's right.
It's important.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Pedals.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It sounds simple, but there's a lot to this, really.
It's not simple.
Yeah. Well, the first reason I started selling this was because people had a hard time understanding where they needed to drill a hole or where they needed to mount the master cylinder on the firewall. There's room for error. And a bunch of guys were really uncomfortable with that.
Which master, brake or clutch?
It's clutch.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're talking mainly about clutch hydraulics, and that's...
I think is one of the coolest things about this is hidden underneath the dash. This isn't on your firewall.
Yeah.
It just makes for a way cleaner setup having it like this.
Yeah, and really that's kind of a byproduct of the function. The function was that a guy needed to take out that error, like potentially drilling this hole in the wrong spot or mounting this in the wrong spot or getting the push rod to not push straight would cause this to fail really quickly.
Right.
So having it on the pedal just eliminates all those possible failures.
Yeah.
Like this is set up correctly, just bolt it in, hook the hoses up and bleed it, and it's going to continue to work forever. The secondary benefits are now that, we can help with manual brakes easier too. Because like I said, the square body had 2 different pedals that it could have come with. So if you wanted to do manual brakes, you would have to drill a new hole in your pedal, and then you'd also have to do our spacer, you'd have to do longer studs on your pedal to get all the way through that. So now there's both manual brake and power brake mounting or push rod mounting holes in the lever.
Okay.
And then we go ahead and pre-install the shorter studs. So these are actually threaded studs. So there's nuts welded to the hanger. And so these are the shorter ones. So if you had power brakes, so a brake booster, the shorter ones are the ones that you would use. And then if you're gonna run our spacer, we give you longer studs. So you'll just undo these 2, swap in the longer ones, and then you can put it in and put the firewall bracket on. So really, if you want to do manual brakes and it be super simple, and you want it to do a manual transmission and it to be super simple, this really works out really well.
Right.
Like this does kind of cost something, I think this full package is $1,600 something, but again, it's trying to make things easier for a guy.
No guesswork.
Yeah,
Like,
you
will
just take
right in.
you just take your old pedals out and you put this in. And then you have to drill a hole for the hoses, but you fill it with fluid and bleed it, and then you're really good to go. So it comes with printed instructions for the dude that likes to have them in print, which is me. I like to put them in a binder.
And colored.
Color. And this is not on my inkjet printer. This is paying a printer to print them.
Really?
Yeah.
These are nice instructions.
Well, you got to be able, how many instructions have you ever gotten? There's a photo and you can't even see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they're really clear, illuminated photos. So you can actually see what you need to do.
That's super helpful.
Yep. So it does come with instructions. And these are all new manufacturing, it's all new steel. They all come with brand new pivot bushings in them. It's all new hardware, brand new pedal pads, the highest quality master cylinder we can use, high grade quality of powder coating. We even on these pedals go through now and we manually radius of the levers and everything before they go to powder coat. So really there's a lot of effort that's gone into these.
Yeah.
So
yeah, like I said, I totally forgot this truck was auto and they were putting manual. So for me to have to go, I don't have this pedal, right?
You don't.
I would have had to find this pedal somewhere.
And there's definitely other options on the market. There's cheaper options. You can buy a pedal kit, a single pedal. You can buy a master. There are cheaper options. This is just a really thorough, low room for error, solution.
Okay. Cool.
You want to put it in?
Yeah, sure. I sure do. So like you said, we did switch out these top studs for longer ones, which they still come with as pedals. That way you have enough space for this spacer and everything else that you need. This is one part I wasn't sure about when I was going to get this kit from Jesse, is how it comes through to get to the caliper, but comes with this bulkhead.
Yep.
That will just fit in the factory hole. So then you don't have to drill any holes to go through, and then your, what is this, number 3?
Yep.
Number 3 is gonna go from that bulkhead to this, this T that we just drilled in. So that is nice.
Yeah. And so this is really an adapter, you know, because that hose end has the same termination as what the factory hardline would have. So if a person had a factory style brake hose, which would have had like the little clip end on it, you could still use that style of hose and omit this adapter.
Gotcha.
Or if you're gonna run a traditional Dash 3, like we would provide, it can come off of this adapter. So there's a couple options. Right below that.
All right, guys, so wrapping up 8-ball here. Special thanks to Jesse again for coming out, helping us figure it out, get the right parts ordered, install all the parts, and where can they find your stuff if they want to purchase parts from you?
Yeah, anything Level 7 Motorsports. So if you guys just Google Level 7 Motorsports, it'll show you our website, YouTube, social medias, all that stuff. But we've tried to break down our website into models of trucks. So a lot of the brake plumbing kits like are specific to models. So you can just click the model of truck and then get in there to the brake subcategory or whatever you guys want to shop on.
Yeah.
But it's all in there. If there's something you don't see or you need help with, shoot us an email. That's probably the best way to talk or figure something out with me. Thanks for having me come over and help.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, man.
But on these 3 that hold the caliper bracket on, they want 3 washers. Don't know why. Maybe the bolts are too long. Would be my only guess. So, don't Loctite these yet. Don't do it. Because I did, and then they tell you to check the caliper spacing. So we're gonna tighten these guys up first. All these washers they send with them, they're like 15 thousandths thick for this particular adjustment. So that guy's snugged up. Caliper, they want you to pre-shim the caliper back. Just one shim. I think these were like 63 thousandths. Yeah, we need more. I'm not even gonna tighten that down because it's definitely gotta go that way. which is the same thing the other one had, although now I'm missing a washer. Oh, found it. They definitely don't send enough washers. I probably could have done another shim that way on the other side. I think you can buy the shims, but I mean, it's super close. I just think another 15 thousandths shim would have been money. I kind of like that you can adjust these back and forth. It's almost like they're planning for it to need adjusted. I'm actually gonna go ahead and put Loctite on them now because I'm out of shims anyway, so tough luck. One of the other things I really like, if I can get this off, about these calipers at least, the other one was not that tight, there we go, is they're what like I call a top loader. So you just pull out this bolt which holds the spacer or pin in, and your brake pads just slide right in from, not necessarily the top, but you know what I mean. So if you're driving this truck on the street, you can put in a lighter duty set of brake pads, and then you want to go to the track. I mean, it's literally a bolt. So that I think is super cool. Maybe not super cool, but very convenient. Oh, another thing I like too is that there's actually an e-brake on this thing. It was a real pain in the butt with the axle flanges I got to tighten the 4 bolts, but having an e-brake built into this is gonna be super handy. All right, just got some more parts in the mail while we're working on this brake stuff. So when I had originally ordered the front and rear brake kit from Jesse, I was gonna run the CPP modular spindles. Well, since then, surprise, surprise, I changed my mind. And I decided I wanted to run the Willwood Pro spindles. But luckily, it's super easy to make the change. It's a caliper mounting bracket on both sides. And the rotor hub. Is it a rotor hub? What's the correct term? I don't. Is there no sticker on this? Oh, it's right there. Hat, rotor hat. So it's a different hat, which this is probably a different depth to mount that. So I've been trying to get tracking on this stuff for like 2 weeks. Nobody ever calls me back. But apparently it didn't matter because it already shipped. And it randomly showed up today. So I'm excited about that because we are in the middle of brake install. All right, big boy brakes. So these should be my spindles. I have no idea what those bolts are for. Those are big freaking bolts. Those must be for the hubs. So what I really like about the Pro spindles is several things. First thing, they're forged aluminum. So more weight off the front, which we want because we're trying to race a truck. So they're forged aluminum, which is awesome. Like this is the spindle. This probably weighs, I don't know, 2 pounds maybe? Like not more than 5. Like that is a fact. So like That is crazy, because we all know how heavy cast iron ones are. So first perk, forged aluminum. Second perk is they use these GMT 800 hubs. Come on. Wow, that is a packaging technique. So these are gonna be, I think they would consider these like a unibearing, hub bearing. I don't know. So these are cool because, oh my gosh, these are heavy. These are just gonna bolt on to our new spindle. So now we don't have the traditional spindle sticking out and you gotta pack the bearings and everything. These are a sealed, ready to go bearing. So these are great because you can replace them. They're also great because they're gonna take the load of turning much better. And they're readily available. I can get that anywhere, and I don't have to be on the side of the road, let's say, repacking bearings. Not that I've ever had that happen, but just, I don't know, doesn't sound fun if it did ever happen. And the third benefit to these is so these bolt on here. What's the technical term for these? Steering arm. Well, that's an easy one. I should have known that. So these are cool because these are bolt-on steering arms. So this is where your outer tie rod would go. I don't know if they make different ones, but I can certainly have these made at our local CNC shop if I needed to. I could even make these. These are aluminum, so that's cool. But I like this because I have tons of adjustment now. I can space this in and out. I can easily drill this out for a bolt and heim, which I like better than like the standard tapered outer tie rod end. And if I ever needed to, I can adjust this turning point in or out where it bolts to. Not with this obviously, but with a different one. And I can turn, or I can change like my steering radius and how sharp it turns. So that is gonna be cool just for an adjustability standpoint. There's no way that you could ever do that on a standard iron drop spindle. So these do come dropped 2.5 inches, which is also cool. I do wish they made this in a standard height. I have a lot of guys call in wanting to do big brakes but don't want to run a drop spindle. Well, as far as I know, you have to. I mean, I know Wilwood doesn't sell any bracketry to put big brakes on a standard spindle. They sell like their D52, but regardless, really excited for this. So I am going to get this dude mounted up and I'm gonna pull off those other spindles that I just put on. And yeah, Jesse did say that they are redesigning these right now too. And the reason they're doing that is they're gonna redesign this to accept like, I think it's a C6 unibearing hub instead of the GMT 800, because then you get a wheel speed sensor, which that would be really cool too as a feature. Probably way too advanced for what we're trying to do right now. We're just trying to get out there, get our feet wet, have some fun with it. So a little advanced for us. These are gonna work great. I'm not gonna have a crazy electrical system with sensors everywhere. So no traction control or anything like that. So yeah, let's get these dudes on the truck and then we can really wrap up our brakes. I got the rear brakes done as you saw. I'm gonna get the front ones on. Finally wrap up another portion of the truck, which is gonna be cool. And we're also ready to put in the engine and trans. So more stuff happening, tons of parts showing up. Too many, honestly. They're everywhere. It's stressful. So let's get them on. Golly, there's a lot of bolts on these things. The exciting stuff. The big boy brakes. Opening. Up it. Opening. All right, one more time. Opening. All right, let up. Go ahead, pump it. Opening. All right, pump it. Opening. All right, let up.